So now today in this session we are going to look at something called HTML. So what does HTML stands for? Hypertext Markup Language. So the one thing you should understand is HTML is not a programming language. It's a markup language. You might have some content. The content can be anything. It can be text, it can be images, it can be audio, it can be video, and you want to showcase this content or you want to put this contents across everyone which has access to internet. The problem that happens is you might write your content in a different editor, or you might use Word, or you might use Doc, or you might put some other things in the content, and the content might not be readable in across all the platforms. So the HTML puts a structure to these documents or structure to this content which you have, so that it can be visible and it can be opened and shown across any browser. Maybe in a smartphone, it can be in a computer, or it can be in a tab. So that is what HTML does. So basically the thing you should understand is you are putting a structure to a content in a proper well-defined fashion, so that all the browsers can understand the content which you have put across and are able to display it in a certain fashion to the end users. End user, I mean anyone who is opening the file, or any link where it can be accessible from anywhere in the world. Now let's look at the basic structures of the HTML and how to write basic pages in HTML and how you can see those pages in your browser. Now let's write a very simple document and open it in our browser and see what I meant by content. Now I'm creating a file called first.html. All the HTML files should end with .html. So I'm just creating file called first.html, and I just copy where this file is located using right click and say copy path. This gives me the location of this file, and I just open that path in the browser. Now you can see uh, it shows uh, an empty blank page because it has no content. Now let's say I put some content called Masai School. Now, and I just reload this page using this reload button. Now it shows Masai School. So this is the basic um, or a very empty content, or some content which you open it in a browser and it works. So you can write any content in this file, text file, and you open it in your browser and it shows that content. But this is not a valid HTML document. We'll learn what an HTML document consists of and what is the meaning of those things which you put in a HTML document. Now, let's say the basic thing that the HTML need to have is something called tags. So what are tags? So tags are these identifiers for different types of content or different formats of content. Let's say you want to put an image, you need a specific identifier which makes it identify that, okay, this line of content or this part of the content is an image. Or in the same way, if you want to put a table, you need a different tag to identify, okay, this content is part of a table. These are called tags. Now first let's look at uh, what are tags and how do they look like. So some people have decided, okay, the people who have decided this I mean, it's a ongoing addition of tags and all will happen, but there is an organization which decides on what are the acceptable tags which browser understand, and all the browser respects these tags which they have decided. Now, what is a tag? So tag is used to create or to used to identify some content. Okay, so it is defined, or it is defined by one or more characters, and it is put between angular brackets. What I mean by angular brackets is left arrow and right arrow. So again, so this is a basic thing that you need to understand. So these are angular brackets. So now anything you put inside this, let's say you want paragraph. I know everybody knows a paragraph is in terms of textbooks and all. So let's say you want to create a paragraph. So the paragraph tag is P. So but it needs to be put in the arrow angular brackets without any spaces. For now, you should understand that you can add spaces, where to add spaces and how to write it. We'll look at it in some time. But this is a basic tag indicating a paragraph of content. Now, but just putting a tag will not define what is the content in the tag, or what is the uh, what is the content associated with the tag. So for that, you need two things: one, starting tag, and ending tag. Okay, now how does the starting tag and ending tag looks? Both almost looks the same. So here in this case, the starting tag is P. So this is the starting tag. The ending tag also looks the same with an extra slash before the P. So before the tag. So you can see this is the starting tag and this is the ending tag, which looks the same. Again, it is enclosed in angular brackets with an extra uh, slash character before the name of the tag, which is P in this scenario. Now let's start writing some content inside this tags. So let's say you write something called uh, Masai School again as a plain text. So I saved it. Again, I'm refreshing this page. You can see it shows Masai School. Now, if you want to create one more paragraph of content, you can create using the same way. You put it peak starting tag, and the editor is automatically closing it with an end tag. It's a good approach to close the tag as soon as you open it, so that you avoid confusion when you have multiple tags. So let's say now I write our tagline. So now if I reload this page, you can see it appears in a new paragraph of like, this is not the case when you write a simple content like this. So when I write something like this, now you can see how it appears when I reload this page. It appears in a single line because it is just a simple content without any tags, it appears as a single line of text. Now let's get back to this. So you know what content is. Content can be text or any other thing. So for now, you know what is text. And text is, and then this is the text content, and you now know what uh, element is. Sorry, what tag is, which defines what is the kind of content it has. Now both the tag and the content together. So this is opening tag, the content plus the closing tag. So all these three are called as an element. So in an HTML page, all these three combined things are called an element. So in this page, you can see there is one element, there is the second element in the second line, so there are two elements. Okay, now um, okay, so in some time you'll see element can have many more things which are called attributes, which will look in some time. But now let's get back and see what is the structure of a proper HTML document, which I've been mentioning it, or what is the markup or the way in which you have to write for it to be a proper HTML document, so that when you open it in a browser, it looks proper. Now let's look into how to write a proper, well-structured HTML document. Now, the first line of any HTML document is should contain something called doc type. So it starts like this. You can see that the the editor automatically shows it. Now, um, it is it is there to identify that the document type you are writing is HTML, and that's how the browser understands. I mean, even if you don't write, it works, but it's a very good uh, standard to put in a proper expected format. So the first line is called doc type. So it's document type. You are telling the browser it's HTML. Now comes uh, the HTML tag. So what is a HTML tag? The HTML, you know what a tag is. So the HTML tag is HTML. So you have to put it in angular brackets to make it a tag. And as soon as you put it, you can see the editor automatically closes it with the end tag. So you don't have to type the end tag. Now the most important part, all the HTML code or syntax should go inside of this HTML tag. So this is called the root tag or whatever or the main tag of the whole HTML document. Now that it should have two things inside it. Now let's go back and see what I mean by inside it. Now the tags I explained you can be put one inside other, but when you are putting tags one inside other, the one which you opened last should close first. What I mean by this is, let's say I'm putting two tags called head and body. Let's assume these are some tags, but I'm just going to show you how to put these tags inside. Now you can write this thing inside of this HTML, and it is called head tag. And in the same way, you can see I closed the head tag before I closed the HTML tag. It can't be you open a tag and close it after the tag which you put it inside. It makes it confusing for the browser, so don't do it, because then the browser will not know when the element started and when the element ended. So when you are putting tags one inside another, it is called nesting. And you have to make sure whatever the tag you open at the last should close first. Now in inside you can put many tags or elements. Now the second tag I'm just going to add is called body. I'm just going to explain to you what does these two tags mean. Um, so the head tag is okay, or the head tag consists of the content. So basically the head element will have the content which is not shown on the browser. It can have certain things called metadata. It can have certain things called loading certain files and all. But whatever you put in the head tag will not be shown anywhere in this main browser part. Now what is the body element? So body element is the place where whatever you put inside this body element will be shown inside of this uh, web page. It can be text, it can be images, it can be audio, video, anything. And if you build games, you can put the games using, I mean, when you build, you know how to build games, you can put all these things. Everything that needs to be shown to the user goes into the body. Everything that is not shown to the user but has some information will go into the head. Okay, now the head can contain multiple things. So one of the thing that you might not know, but you might be very familiar with, is called title. So the head tag must contain or can contain one element called or title. So again, I'm putting this inside the head tag, head element. So when I put this title element, I close this one first, the title, then the head is being closed. So make sure when you are putting the elements, these are completely inside of a particular element, not starting inside and ending outside. That is a wrong syntax. Now, whatever the content you put inside this title, you're pretty much familiar with where it appears. I mean, you might not know, but let me show it to you. So if you put some content inside the title, it shows on the browser page. You can see it shows Masai School here. Till before it was showing the file name, but now as soon as you put the title, it shows in the top of the browser, whatever the tab you open. Let's say you open Google, so you can see the Google name is there. In the same way, whatever you put in the title. So let's say I'm putting first uh, or learning HTML. Now, as soon as I reload this page, it shows learning HTML. There are more things that can be put in head. We'll look them in at a later point of time. But every HTML element should have an head, and in the head it should have a title so that it will show in the browser what is the name of that page, or what is the title of that page. Now you know how to write the HTML document, put a structure for it. Let's look at some of the common elements and then how they display the content on the browser or the web page. The first set of things we are looking at are called heading elements. So the tag starts with H1. So that is how the tag look like. So H1 till H6. So it can be used to show different sizes of headings. So the H1 being the will show the largest, and then gradually it keeps on decreasing till uh, H6. So I'm just going to put all the heading elements that are available in HTML. Now you can see if I put H1 in Masai School, you can see it doesn't look like normal text. It looks like heading with a bold and a bigger in size. In the same way, you can put elements till the heading elements are from H1 to H6. So these are called heading elements. So now you can change the numbers from H1 to H6, and then you can see how these things appear on the web page. So again, each one has different sizes. So you can see as you go down from H1 to H6, the size of the heading decreases. These can be used when you want to put headings and all, and the tags or from H1 to H6. Now let's look at the most common tag which you already have looked at in the past, which is called a paragraph tag. So this is used to denote a paragraph of text. Let's say the quick box. So let's say I defined a paragraph of text. I want to showcase it, and you can see it has certain behavior, like it is not bold, and it is in a single line. And as soon as you put a new paragraph, it appears in a new line. It doesn't appear side by side, and there is certain distance between two paragraphs, like how you see in textbooks and all the things, or any print media. Now the next set of element is called a div element. So it's called division. So today we will not be looking much into div. We will come back it in at a later point of time. But it is mainly used again to organize content. It's the short notation for division. So let's say you have a lot of content and you want to create blocks of content. So it is used to hold together multiple elements together into a single element, and so that you can move around, you can apply certain things called styles which you look at in the future, and to make them appear at a particular position on the page and all. If you put certain text in the development, you can see it doesn't have any styles associated with it. Now, again, each div would appear in a new line, but not like paragraph with certain spacing in between those two divs. So you can see these two are or just like multiple lines of text there. So again, don't worry about the development. We will look back, come back to it and see how to use it to build certain things. Now there are two more elements or tags which you need to understand. So one is UL, which is the short notation for unordered list. There's one more thing called order list, which is OL. So whenever you want to create certain pointers, let's say pointers of text, you can use this thing called UL. So the basically, if you create an element with UL, it doesn't have anything. So in it's a list of items. So what are the list defined by? So to define a list, you have to create one more element with a tag called li. So it is called list item, the short notation for list item. Let's say you want to put a B C D E. So I want to put some pointers, but since it is an unordered list, it doesn't have any numbers. So if you make it an ordered list, it will have numbers. It will just show it as pointers. So you can see it shows as pointers. Now in this list, in E, you can put one more list. Let's say you want to put one more list inside it. You can put one more list like this. So you say unordered list. You can put one more set of LIs. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see now I'm putting nested elements, one element inside other element, and the nesting is there till the HTML, the main root element. Now I'm keeping all elements one inside the other. This is called nesting. You can see they appear a bit offset because this UL is inside of an li. So the browser knows that it needs to, it is a list inside a list, and it shows in a different fashion. So that's how you can use ULs. And also, like I said, there is one more thing like UL, which is called OL. So OL is an order list. If you use an OL, I'm just copy pasting the same thing again. And uh, so why I'm writing the code in such fashion with spaces? Uh, because to make sure I know which is inside it, and it makes the code readable. It's called indentation. So one level which is inside will be with one layer of spacing or tabs. So generally people use tabs, and it will put it across so that you are, whenever you are seeing the code, you know that okay, this is one level down, this is one level, this is inside of this is inside of this. So it's very clearly visible from the code itself. So you can see if you use an unordered list, it looks like this small pointer dots. Now if I make it to OL, so which is order list, instead of these pointers, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because it is an order list, it has a number. So it starts with 1, 2, 3, 4. So numbering starts, it automatically puts the numbers. You see, I have not put the numbers here. So the browser understands that you want to create an order list, and it creates with the numbers. Now, before jumping into the next concept, let's look at into something called attributes. So basically, whenever you want to provide an extra information to the tag or an element without being shown in the browser, so you have to use these things called attributes. What is the syntax of the attribute, how to write them, I'll just explain. But basically these are key value pairs. You know what key value pairs are. So it has a thing, a key and a value. So generally, mostly the values are or strings, but in this scenario, so the attributes and values can be attached to the tags, uh, but these attributes can be specific to a particular tag or can be available for all the tags. So you don't have to worry or remember all the things. You can refer to documentation whenever it is needed, but you need to know what is the syntax to write an attribute. Now, let's say there is a tag called P. Let's say if you want to add an attribute, I mean, it's a dummy attribute, it's not there. So let's say you want to add some key and value. I'm just showing you the syntax for how to write the attribute. So this is a typical element, P element, which is Masai schools. Now, if you want to add an attribute to it, uh, after that tag element, you just put a space before the angular closing angle bracket, and you put whatever the key you want to put it, and you put an equal to, and in quotations put the value whatever you want to put it. Now again, this is not a valid attribute, this is not a valid attribute for the paragraph. I'm just showing you the syntax, but once you reload it, you can see it doesn't affect anything, it doesn't even show in the page itself. Now, why these attributes are required? They provide some extra information to the element so that if it's needed, it will be used by the browser to do a lot of things. Now, the next set of things which we are going to look at are called tables. So you are very much familiar with tables. Whenever you open an Excel, you see that you see a big set of tables. The one thing you need to understand is HTML also provide you the ability to put tables on web pages. Let's see how to put it. So the tag for the table is table. So I'm putting the ending and the closing tag. Now the table has two elements, should can have two elements inside. One is the head and the body. So the head generally will have the headings of the table, and the body will have the contents of the table. Okay, now again, I'm just creating the both the head tag and the body tag for the table. So this is the head tag and this is the body tag. Now in head, so you know a table can have multiple rows and multiple columns. So you have to define each row individually. In the head, let's say I want to put headings. Let's say first you have to define a row. So again, you can have multiple heading rows. Each row is defined by a tag called tr. Now in this, you are going to put something called th. So uh, what is th? So th defines a cell in a header. So th is one cell. That means one row, one column is called a cell. So let's say I want to put serial number, and let's say I want to put th name. Now, if I just reload this page, you can see it shows the heading of the table and serial number, name, and let's say I want to put one more column called age. Now you can see it shows the three columns. Again, it's not necessary to have head all the times. Only if you require headings for a table, you can use them. Now you might be wondering why it is not showing with border. By default, the table doesn't show with border, that the browser doesn't show border for the table. If you want the border to be shown, there is an attribute called border. So you can use this attribute called border. I'm just writing that attribute value border and writing it 1. So if you write it 1 and you can reload it, you can see it shows the border to the particular table. If you make it 2, let's see what happens. you can see the thickness of the border has increased. So again, based on the value, the border size might vary. So you can see 5 is much more thicker. So you can use these things to make sure that or if you want to make the table look it in different fashion, you can use these things. Now, again, I'm going back to the things. Now, let's say you want to add rows inside the body of the table. So you can add similarly how you used like add rows in the head. You can also add rows in the body. Both are defined by TR. Now, again, I'm just putting TD. So what does TD? TD defines a cell, basically a column. A rows column is called a cell, and it defines a cell of a particular row. Now let's say serial number 1. Now again, if you just put this, you can see the first cell will come inside like in the same line as the first column of the heading. Now if you want to put the names, I can say Nrupul, and let's say age is, I'm using the age. Now you can see it shows 1 Rupul 32. In the same way, if you want to add one more row, so you can add one more row to the table. So it shows, and you can put more information into this table, more cells. So serial number 2, let's say Pratik, and let's say TT, and let's say study. Now, if you reload it, you can see more and more rows are getting added with the data which you want to put into these tables. Now, this is how you can create tables. You now know what are attributes, how to use attributes for a particular element. Again, this border is specific to this table uh, tag, so it might not work for all the things, but for table it will work. So you have to know which thing will be used for which tags, and again for that you can use this site called MDN, Mozilla Developer Reference Site. It has all the values which I will explain you how to go around it. But first try to understand the structure of the HTML element, and then how you are able to put elements, and then making sure to able to make pages which or having content in different fashion, and the layout is looking different in this. You looked at tables, and it can be different, like if you use a list, it will look different, and if you use, basically the content is the same, but the way in which it will look, it will vary based on the tag in which you put the content into. Now that's all for tables, and again there are many things which we'll look at in the next set of things for tables, which are called table. Has something called, I mean, the cells which you are writing, which is TDs, has attributes, some attributes called row span and call span. We look into what this row span and call span are, and for that I'll just create a bigger table, and I explain you those things, how these two row span and call span work. Now let us look at this table. I created a table with 4 rows and 5 columns, and then in each cell I put the content as 1.1, 1.2 based on the row number and the column number. Now let's say you want to make a bigger cell joining 2 columns. So in those scenarios, you use something called call span. So that means how many columns that this cell should occupy. So by default, each cell occupies 1, but if you want it to occupy 2 columns, you make it 2. Now if you look at it, you'll see it got extended to 2 columns, but now you see total it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 columns, whereas other rows has only 5 columns, and then that's why the table is looking odd. Let's say you want, I mean, it's you can see now if I remove one cell from the first row, it say again the table is normal. Now you can see this particular cell is spanning across two columns. It is not occupying the space of one column. It is occupying the space of two columns. That's what the call span determines. In the same way, if you want a cell to occupy three columns, you can say call span 3. Now, you can see it occupies uh, three columns. Similar to call span, let's say you want a cell to occupy multiple rows. What I mean by multiple rows is, in this scenario, I want this 3.5 to occupy two rows, not one row. So in those cases, you will put the row span as 2. So when you put the row span as 2, it will occupy uh, two rows, and you can see this cell got pushed away, but I'm just removing it so that each row and will have same number of cells. So now you can see this is occupying two rows. In the same way, if you want any cell to occupy from that row till the end of it, so there's one special value for row span, which is called 0. So then that cell will extend till the end of or end of the table. What I meant by this is, let's say you can see now, you can see this 2.1 is now going till the end of the table. No matter how many rows you add, it will keep on going till the end. So let me show it to you. So now this 2.1 is there. Let me let me add a new row which is 5.2 to 5.5. Now I'll add more thing. Now you can see even if it added, now you can see that this one got extended because the row span of this is a special value called 0, which will make it extend till the end of the table. So this is how you can use row span and call span attributes to change the layout inside a table. So based on how many columns you want, how many rows you want for a particular cell, these can be controlled using these things. Till now, all the tags you are using contains text. Let's look at the next set of tag, which will let you put images into the web page or HTML page. So the tag is called image. So img. Now I'm just opening this tag and closing this tag. So if I do this, now you can see if I just reload it, there is nothing inside it because you haven't put the image here. You can't directly put the image file over here. You have to use an attribute called source for this image, which lets you point out where the image is. You can point out to your disk by giving the path of that image. For now, let's use something called online address. Let's say you pick up the address of the image from here. So you can see an image, and if you right click it, you can see copy image address. So this is like the address for that image in the internet. Now you can use this address yes, as SRC, which is the short notation for source. So where should it load the image from? So that is what it represents. So source attribute, I am pasting the link for the image. So this is the address for that image. Yeah, the Google's logo has a long address. Now let me put this and reload it. So now you can see it has loaded the Google image. Again, the size is different because it loaded the whole size. You can control it using the different attributes called height and width. But for now, just understand this image tag. So image tag has just a source attribute. So the URL where the image should be loaded from, and that's all. It will not have any content. So you can see this is an empty content element. So that means it doesn't have any content inside it. So here it is there's no text inside it. So in these scenarios, so you might you might be wondering, so what is it you have to put it? You don't have to put anything here for the image to load. So the image location will go, or the address will go in the source attribute. So all these kinds of elements, so you don't have to specify the end tag. You can start and close the end tag, the tag with a single tag. uh, these are called self-closing tags. So how do you do it? So let's say the image tag you started, and you wrote the source, and before the closing of it you just put a slash. So that means it understands that it doesn't have an end tag, and it closes here itself, so you don't have to provide the end tag. Again, these self-closing things will only be used for those tags where there is no content inside that element. So but in those scenarios, you can use these self-closing tags. There are many more places where you can see these kind of behavior in like the self-closing tags. Let me show it to you. So let's say you wrote a paragraph saying Masai School, and you want to put one more paragraph of Masai School, but in between these two you want to put a line. So there is something called HR, which is horizontal a line. So it puts an HR. It will keep a line between these two elements. So you can see a line between these two. Uh, in this scenario, again, there is no content inside it. So for this scenario also, you can use something called the self-closing tag in this fashion. So uh, it's like the short notation for like the instead of writing the closing and ending tag, you can write it as a single tag, which means it starts and closes here itself. Okay, so that's how you can use the short tags. Now you understand how to use show images in your HTML pages, and also what self-closing tags are. Some elements where they need not to be any content inside that particular element. So these are all the things which you saw now. So all the tags which you have looked till now is to showcase some information to the user. But there are scenarios where you want to take some information from user. That means take some input from the users. So for all these scenarios, you will use a special kind of tags called input tags. So the input tags will take input from the user, so that again, how it works is based on the tag which you wrote. They might have some attributes which make it look in a certain way in the browser. But the important thing is it sends the data to the server, which you will learn at a later stage how to send the data to server, and how to read the data in the server side. But let's look at it how to just create those elements where you can take input from the user. So the first basic thing which we are going to look at is called an input element. So input tag, again, it's also as you can also use it as a self-closing tag. It doesn't require the end tag. uh, so I've just put an input. Now you can see it shows a box of where you can type something. Okay, now input has various attributes, and each attribute, I mean, there are multiple things you can do, but let's look at the basic attributes which you use a lot. The first one is called type. So what is the type of input you want to take? Sometimes you want to take text. Okay, so this is the basic text input where you can type any text you want to put, let's say Nupul or anything. The other kind of generally input you see is called password, where you can type something, but the browser will not show what you are typing. So that is called password. Let's say you make an input of type password instead of text. Uh, you can see whatever you are typing. So in this left one, if I'm typing Nupul, it's visible. In the right one, I'm typing Nupul, but it is not visible. It is looking like that password. So that's how the password feels wherever you see or created. The same way there are, if you want to use the input take a file from the user, you can use this type as file. Now as soon as you put it as file, you can see it shows the file browser uh, to uh, to select the files. And there are other kind of things in which you can use. Let's say if you want to put a checkbox, so it will show a checkbox. You can see it shows a checkbox which you can tick and untick. uh, there are many more types which are available, but let's look at more types at a later point of time. But the idea is these input fields let you take the input from the user. There's one more attribute called placeholder. Let's say you want to put some light text into it, like the example of it, not a value. So to showcase or to give a message, type your name. So I'm just going to show you how this placeholder attribute value is going to reflect in your this thing. You can see it shows type your name. As soon as you click it and you start typing, it goes away. So this is for giving some kind of hint to the user, so what you should do, all the things, and for that particular input and all. So this is called placeholder. Generally, whenever you are working with inputs, you don't take one input, you take multiple inputs. So again, in this scenario, I'm just taking, let's say, username and password. Okay, so now there are multiple inputs. So these inputs should be put in in a tag called form. So what does form does? Form is a set of, or form is a collection of inputs, because you want to when you want to send to the server, you want to send a particular number of items to the server. So let's say you want, in this scenario, you want to send your username and password. So both these input should be put in a form, so that these are like combined together and sent to the server when you are sending it. Now you can see there are two elements. Again, this form, it will not display anything new here, but you can see these two are internally combined together and sent whenever you're sending it to the server. That's what form does. So all the set of inputs you want to send at once, you have to put in one form. Okay, there can be multiple forms in a page, one for login, one for sign up, one for forget password, and based on. So again, one set of inputs will be put inside one particular form. Now, let's say you want to showcase some like what are the fields this input takes. So till now these are just input boxes, so it doesn't have uh, what is this input for. Let's say you want to put some heading to it. So for inputs, to showcasing what it takes, so there are these special tags called label. So if you put a label, it puts the text on the form. Let's say that this is the label for username, and let's say this is the label for password. Now it shows two like text before this input box, so that it knows the user has to type the username here, the user has to type the password here. For now, okay, how to arrange these things, we'll come back at a later point of time. But a form can have multiple labels and multiple inputs. To connect which label belongs to which input, because there can be, you wrote like multiple labels and multiple inputs. To connect which label belongs to which input, there's one attribute that the input has, which is called name. So whenever you are sending to the server, you should give some name to it. So for each input, because there can be multiple inputs, so there is this attribute called name. I'm just giving it password, okay, or let's say pass, and for this I'm just giving a name called user. Okay, so for this input, I gave the name as user. So that means whenever this form sends this input to the server, the value what you are typing over here will be sent with the name as user. The value which you are typing the password input will be sent with the name as pass. Now you can see there are two labels. HTML doesn't know which label belongs to which. You have to specifically mention which label belongs to which input. So for that, whatever the name it has, so there is this specific thing called ID, which you will look at a later point of stage. So don't worry what ID does, but assume like uh, that you need to give an like far. So you have to mention which input this label belongs to. Okay, so you need to say far. Okay, and you need to mention which ID, which means which ID is the identifier. So the ID of this label which it belongs to. So let's say uh, I'm defining an ID for this input. Let's say I give this ID as ABCD. So the ID is used to identify a particular element. So let's say for this input will be identified with ABCD. So let's say this username is mapped or linked to ABCD. So this is what the convention that you need to follow. So the far value should match with the ID of the input. Now the same is the case for password. So you need to give, let's say, some far value. Before that, let's give an ID to password input also. So ID is equal to, let's say, uh, BCDE. Okay. Now I'm just giving some random values here. Again, these are attributes, key value pairs. The key is ID, the value is BCDE. Now I need to give the same ID as which I gave to the password field as a far value to this label, so that the HTML browser knows that this label belongs is for this input field or this input element. So that is all about inputs, forms, and labels. Um, so now you will be able to create, again, if you do it, there will not be any visual impact on the page, but you can see you created a form where you can take certain inputs from the user and it kinds of you can kind of send it to the server to do a lot of things. So that's all for today's session. So you looked at different what is HTML, what are tags, what are elements, what are attributes, different kinds of tags like heading tags, paragraph tags, div tags, image tags, uh, input tags, labels, tables, uh, table headings, table rows, table cells, which are TDs, and how to provide call span and row span attributes to those things. And you will get one more thing called OL, which is order list, or UL, which is unordered list, and the list items which you put inside those two lists. And you briefly touched upon div, which is uh, nothing but a block of content, which we'll look at in some of the upcoming classes. So that's how the basic syntax of the HTML works. Again, the important thing to note is it is a syntax of the text you are writing. So any text you write, you're putting it in a specific format so that the browser can understand and display it in a certain fashion. It is not a programming language. It is a kind of convention which you follow so that all the browsers understand.